Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and we are awaiting the next expansion announcement. Probably coming tomorrow, maybe later today. We'll have a bonus video if that's the case. If not, expect a later video because they typically announce these things a little bit later. So stay tuned for all of that. But I thought it'd be fun to revisit our expansion tier list and go over, rate every single expansion in Hearthstone history from tier S through F, S being amazing, the best ever, F being god-awful. I hope we never have to relive that style of expansion again. And well, you guys can submit your own, share your own opinions in the comments below. Template will be in the description below. And if you enjoy the content on the channel and you feel like I've earned your subscription, hit that sub button down below. Give the video a like. We're at like over 64,000 subs on a road to 69,420. Plus, we're going to announce the giveaway tomorrow. And you want to be sub for that. So hit that sub button down below. Maybe go broke. Anyways, let's take a look. We'll try and go through in a decent pace because there are a lot of expansions. I'm including all adventures. I'm including mini sets as part of the expansions, but adventures will be separate. So just the classic, classic Hearthstone. You got like Ragnaros, Sylvanas. It's gotta be S tier. It set the foundation for Hearthstone, and I can go back to classic to this day. And if I'm not facing a bot, typically still have a pretty good time. It just set everything up really well, and it's something that, I don't know, maybe I'm nostalgic for, but I do think the base Hearthstone is still a pretty damn good game. Next, we have the Curse of Naxxramas, the first ever content edition of Hearthstone. It was an adventure, and you got cards like Loatheb and Deathlord and Haunted Creeper. Really solid adventure. A lot of these cards still see play to this day. That's how powerful it was. Only the Undertaker is like a true outlier of like really busted things, although you could argue that for Loatheb. I'm going to give Curse of Naxxramas an A. Plus the solo content, really fun, really good. I think they really knocked it out of the park. GVG feels like a step back for Hearthstone. It was all about mechs and a lot of random. You got cards like Implosion and Crackle, two of the worst designed cards of all time. You got some iconic stuff in there like Dr. Boom, all of that. I'm going to give GVG a C. A lot of the cards haven't held up very well. One of the least nerfed expansions ever. I believe only one card got nerfed. Bonus points in the comments below if you know what mech got nerfed from GVG. But yeah, overall, not the most impressive thing in the world. Blackrock Mountain, speaking of not very nerfed expansions or adventures, was an amazing adventure that's all like Grim Patron, Emperor Thorson, really cool cards. Flame Waker, I think Quick Shot is there. For me, Blackrock is S tier. No card ever got nerfed. The meta was pretty crazy. Patron Warrior was pretty dominant, but it just spawned so many cool decks. And one of my favorite cards of all time, Emperor Thorson, was a big part of that. Then we got the Grand Tournament expansion with like Inspire, Joust, a lot of bad cards. Standouts being like Aviana. You got Justicar Trueheart, which is an awesome card, as well as, the Mysterious Challenger and all of that. I'm going to give it a C. Not the best expansion in the world. The mechanics were pretty lame, and just, yeah, it doesn't really have a lot of great memories. We have the League of Explorers, though, which introduced the League of Explorers. This like got dropped like out of nowhere. Like they announced it, and I think it was like that weekend it was out. We've never seen anything like that before then or since then. You got Reno, Finley, Brand, and Elise and all of that. It's S tier. There's so many cool cards. It spawned the Reno archetype, which is one of the most beloved things ever. Yeah, Brand's a little broken now, but he was a really cool, good card for a long time until he became a little bit busted later because battle cries weren't quite as cheap. And it also introduced Discover. For better or worse, I think most of us would, argue Discover is good for the game, but man, it's been abused and overused to say the least. Whispers of the Old Gods came out next with like Cthulhu, Yogg, Yasharaj, just really good cool cards. It's got to be S2. Like this is like peak Hearthstone. All the cool old gods, a lot of cool cards that came with that set. I would feel really weird not giving it an S. So we got One Night in Karazhan, another adventure that was all about like these portals, randomness. You got like Maelstrom Portal, Firelands Portal. You got Medivh, which is a pretty cool card, but overall, not the best adventure in the world, not the worst. I'm gonna give it a C. I thought it was really underwhelming, and you got like, I think it was Spirit Claws for Shaman, which was super frustrating, made every turn 2 hero power basically decide the game if they got spell damage back when you could get spell damage totem, and I really don't miss those days. Mean Streets of Gadsden introduced Jades, the whole different like mean streets. You got the grimy goons, the Jades, like the Kazaka stuff. I quit Hearthstone for like a couple of weeks. The only time I've ever quit the game because patches and Small Time Buccaneer were so omega broken that I'm gonna give it a C. I'm not gonna give it an F, but it really upset me. I never really loved Jade Idol. I thought it was a frustrating thing. I did like Kazakus. Raza ended up being pretty cool. Yeah, but I hated Draken and Operative as well. I thought was like, man, they have a premium statted tribal minion with Discover. This is brute forced, ridiculous, and that's like the norm now. But that's where it really seemed to start, and I really did not care for Mean Streets. But that one I'm sure some people will disagree with. Journey to Ungoro. S. Probably my favorite expansion ever outside of like the base thing. You have the quests. Yeah, it has quests and I love it. But the quests weren't like super defining other than Quest Rogue, one of the most toxic cards ever. But besides that, you had like all the cool elementals. In particular, my favorite deck of all time, Discover Mage, which had like Primordial Glyph. And this expansion introduced Meteor and Altarsaur in the same set. Just a rad time. Probably the most diverse meta ever outside of, I think, Warlock was unplayable for the most part in Goro, but every other class in the game had like multiple decks to play. Really peak Hearthstone. Knights of the Frozen Throne, outside of the hero cards, which had the Deathlights, like Jaina, one of my favorite cards ever. Love Jaina. Outside of the Deathlights, Frozen Throne wasn't that great. You like Prince Keleseth and some other stuff. I think Bone Mare came into the equation around here. But overall, I'm going to give Frozen Throne an A just for how awesome the Deathlights were. But outside of that, it really was kind of, you know, a whatever expansion. But those Deathlights were pretty rad. Kobolds and Catacombs, I've gone up and down with this one. I used to really dislike it. It was too powerful. Now I kind of like it. You had all the legendary weapons. You had like Carnivorous Cube. You had Unnerved Corridor Creeper. But overall, really cool, fun metas that came from it. Insane power level. I'm going to give it an A. It's not an S for me, but still, really interesting set. We had the Witchwood, which introduced like the rush mechanic. Baku, Gen, not one of my favorites. Really made the game feel really lame and dull and boring. But it did introduce Rush, which has been also overused and abused, but also a pretty good mechanic. I'm going to give it a B. If you exclude like Gen and Baku, it really isn't that bad a set in terms of its like impact in the game. It's just those two cards were really kind of devastating in their impact. You could argue a C, but I'm going to go a B. Boomsday Project was all about mechs and legendary spells. You had like Flark's Boomzooka or Luda's Pocket Galaxy, which got buffed at 5. Snip Snap was added later. Like a year later, they added Snip Snap as a mech in an event. It counts as Boomsday. I really enjoyed Boomsday. Dr. Boom, Mad Genius, one of my favorite cards. A lot of people hate him, but I thought it was a really fun set. I'll give it an A, not quite an S. We got Rosticon's Rumble, which was a fail in terms of its impact in the game. You had these spirits, but really cool cards. There's a really cool card design. You had like Master's Call, really enhanced the Beast Hunter. I had Zul'jin, I believe the Hunter Hero card was really impactful, but you also had Shirvallah, one of the coolest cards ever. I think Rosticon's Rumble gets a bad rap. They were trying to dial back power level. They had ditched that approach after this, but I'm giving it a B. I still think it wasn't that bad a set. Rise of Shadows is where they ditched the more reasonable power level and went straight power creep with lackeys and Bomb Warrior and all sorts, like Heist Baron Togwaggle, so much shenanigans, such a broken set. I loathe the lackey so much that I don't care. I'm giving it a C. A lot of people love this set. For me, it kind of represented like, okay, we're power creeping until the end of time. And that's what we've seen ever since Rise of Shadows. Every set has basically escalated ever since then, with some exceptions. Then we had the Saviors of Uldum introduce quests for the second time. Again, not bad. None of them got nerfed. Not one Uldum quest got nerfed. I like the Shaman one that doubled battle cries. You had the Druid one, which was pretty cool, which combined your choose one effects. And we also had some new Highlander cards in there, like Reno the Relicologist and Bran. A really good set. It gets a really high A from me. I quite enjoyed it. It was just kind of soured by the Doom of the Tomb event that introduced Evolved Shaman to the game that wasn't all that fun. Then we have Descended Dragons, which had Galakrons, Draconic Lackey, Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. The power level of the set was something we had never seen before. Galakrond Shaman broke the game at launch. It was a mess. It's aged a bit better over time, but it was a really nasty launch, and the power level to me was way too high. I didn't enjoy it a lot, but the Galakrond, especially the Shaman one, once it was more balanced, was a lot of fun. I will give it a B, but man, some of those cards out there were just way too toxic. We also had Galakrond's Awakening, the adventure for Descent of Dragons that introduced like the amazing Reno. We had one card nerfed, I can't remember the name. It's like the 4-mana 3/3 that's a 0-mana 3/3. Can't remember the name off the cuff. I'll hopefully have a screenshot, but overall, pretty like decent adventure. Again, I'll give it a B. Not terrible. It accompanied Descent of Dragons pretty well. Ashes of Outline saw Demon Hunter come into the game. So many nerfs. So many nerfs. You also like the whole Prime minions, like the Mage one that got nerfed, and some other ones like that. It was a pretty decent set, but Demon Hunter was broken out the gate. That entire expansion launch was awful. Horrible experience. It aged a little bit better, but I'm going to give it a C. Not quite an F. I haven't given anything an F yet, so you can see that there's been merit to most expansions. Scholomance Academy came out. This is probably the most powerful expansion ever, I think. Like, I can't count how many busted cards he got in here. Lightning Bloom, Guardian Animals, Mindrender, Elucia, just to name a few. Unbelievably powerful. I love the Soul Fragment archetype that Warlock and Demon Hunter got. It was awesome in Demon Hunter. I'm giving it an S. I know the power level was ridiculous, but it was just such a flavorful, amazing expansion that gave tools to like every class. Was all of a sudden it was just from Demon Hunter and Warrior to everybody, and I thought it was a really good set. Even with Elucia, the card I loathe more than most, I do think Scholomance is an S tier expansion. Darkmoon Fair saw the return of the old gods, which I like pretty much all their reimaginings. Cthulhu the Shattered, you know, putting them together in your deck and then dealing 30 damage. Yashiraj working with corrupt cards, and Zop bringing tribal minions got buffed to 9, and Yogg just spinning the wheel and doing Yoggish things. I like Darkmoon Fair. It had a lot of good stuff. The corrupt mechanic was pretty cool. I'll give it an A. I'll give it an A, even though it did bring us things like Il'gynoth and Deck of Lunacy and all that, and its accompanying adventure wasn't too bad. Then we have the most recent, these standard expansions currently. These next three will be rotating. Forge of the Barrens, really just mid-expansion, right? Like, it was okay. It was fine. There's really nothing that exciting about it. You got frenzy mechanics and all of that. None of it panned out that great. It's just a whatever expansion. You had like the adventurer cards that did nothing. Just a weird one. The caravans too. Just an oddity to say the least. United in Stormwind. I'm sure you guys are waiting for that. Yes, this is my 1F. This is the one expansion that was like detrimental to the health of the game. Quest lines made every deck an OTK deck, turned Hearthstone into something we had never seen before. Thankfully, haven't really seen since, but the negative impact it had, despite some of the positives, like I loved Rat King. I think Dark Bishop Benedictus was a really cool card. It introduced tradable, a really cool mechanic that I hope they re-explore at some point. But overall, the quest lines were unmitigated disaster, and I really hope if they ever do return to quests, they go to quests, not quest lines, and don't make rewards so unbelievably ridiculous like the Demon Seed, where you just outright won the game. It just was so unhealthy. I can't stress it enough. We'll see if it ages over time better, but for me, it's still the only expansion that really deserves an F. It fractured in Alterac Valley, which saw the hero cards return like Guff, Dawngrass. They're all the whole mercenaries thing that started in Forge of the Barrens. It was an okay expansion, but my god, it brought in Snowfall Guardian, a lot of broken hero cards, a lot of unfun stuff that really kind of felt like it lingered from the design choices of United Stormwind, leaked into Alterac Valley to the point where I'm giving it a C. I just didn't love it. And you can see the last year of Hearthstone, a B, a C, and an F. By far the worst rated, I would say. The worst year in Hearthstone history. If you took a look at Rarn's video from yesterday, he reviewed it. I kind of gotta agree. Then we had Voyage of the Sunken City for this year, starting it off, and it started off great. Colossal minions, freaking rad. Who doesn't love a big stupid colossal minion? They're the most overstated, power creeped, overtuned minions nobody complains about. You know why? Because they're expensive, and the only time people complain about it is like a Neptulon when it's cheated out. And that's the essence of what big dumb cards should be, are broken. and we need to see that more, and we are seeing that more. I'm giving it an A. I really did like Sunken City. Castle Nathria was also awesome with the flavor, the whole murder mystery around it, but we got Prince Renethal, at least for a while, on nerf, 40 health, 40 cards, one of the coolest cards ever. They should have never nerfed it in my opinion, and it led to just the most creative deck building we've ever seen. It allowed players to play cards that they could never play before, and it just opened things up so much, and then they took it away. The big, asterisk for Nathria is Denathrius and Theotar dominating the meta, but overall the whole infused mechanic, really sweet expansion. I will give it an A. Right besides Sunken City, I still prefer it over Sunken City just for Renethal. It takes the nudge for me, but it's really, really close. And then we have the most recent expansion, March of the Lich King, which saw the Deathlight class added to the game. That's the big thing, because everything else has been pretty lackluster, to be honest. You take a look at all the archetypes they pushed this entire expansion so far, almost none of them have worked out. It's mostly old stuff with a few new cards, which can be pretty common in a 6th expansion of the year. But the Deathlight class, freaking awesome. I love it. It's arguably my favorite class in Hearthstone, and for that reason, I'm gonna give it an A. I think this entire year was an A, really solid rebound from 1 year of complete just either mid or disastrous proportions, and that's my tier list. I think it's a pretty healthy distribution. Only one fail. You guys know I would put that there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, what your favorite expansions, your least favorite, and all of that. And well, next video, we'll talk to you tomorrow or later today with the next expansion announcement, maybe some core set news. Who knows? Should be a lot of fun. We'll see you then. Have a great day. Stay salty, my friends.